Audience member asked the question, line 6F, shout out to you. You said, off topic, but VG, I think you may want to discuss the recent Digital Foundry video on if it's possible to build a console like PC for the same price as you've discussed before. Basically, VRAM is the biggest limiting factor to meeting that console price point, but it's a lot easier with AMD, of course. I just think that's a fair counter argument because you do see Indiana Jones and other new games struggling on 12 gigabytes and lower cards. Now, I did try to watch that Digital Foundry video a while back, and somehow I kind of stopped. But here are some pertinent things that you must know. I strongly believe that the question that spurred that off is, number one, kind of, loaded with a little bit of maybe misinformation or lack of information. And there are some things that they mentioned that basically almost made me lose my mind. I will show you receipts. I'll do the best that I can to help you see what my perspective is. So let's listen to the question. Let's listen to some of the answers, and then I'll start pulling some receipts for you. Are you ready? Grab your popcorn. You're going to need it for this one.
Wait, final question. This one from Degenerative AI. Greetings, gents. Do you think we'll ever get to a point during this generation where you can build an equivalent or better PC for the same price as a console?
The answer is we already got there. We already passed it. Receipts. Back in March of 2024, I started putting together a build pricing catalog to show people that for the cost of what they'll pay for PlayStation console, PlayStation Plus, and the premium cost of games on console, because most times when they launch, they're more expensive, they could build a gaming PC for $600 or more, about $650, that would defeat the PlayStation 5 in performance and gain the advantages of what you can get from PC. To those videos, I faced a lot of resistance. I had console gamers telling me that, oh, blah, 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 blah. But by and large, I had enough receipts to be able to show. What you're looking at in front of you, many of you may have basically caught on, some of you may not have because it's kind of weird on the screen, is the history of this Google document that I used to put together this particular price sheet. As far back as March 22nd of 2024, the price of a Ryzen 5 5500 was $89.99. The price of the RTX 3060 was $299. I even bought one. If you want, I have receipts to that effect. And then you could buy a case for $50, power supply for $40, 600 watts thermal take. You could buy RAM for about $35, DDR4, and a motherboard for around $85, maybe even less, depending on how you go. And I put together a build to basically go ahead and show that you could actually play these games at very good quality. I got some people pushback. They said, oh, you can't do it, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, here it is, I'm doing it. Some of them said it's a shameful build because you're playing at 1080p. You can't necessarily expect blah, 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 blah. And I said, okay, what do you want? Do you want me to go ahead and show you 1440? So what I did was I went ahead and I upgraded that GPU to an RX 6750 XT. Now, that moved the entire build to $661, and I told them, by the way, this build will smack the PlayStation 5 Pro when it comes out because they're not going to give you too much in terms of changing your CPU, because we already heard that the CPU was more than likely going to remain the same all the way back as a year ago. So to see somebody asking Richard Ledbetter this particular question, it just amazes me. Do you see why I'm looking going like, huh? Okay, so let's keep listening.
You can already do this with used parts if you...
No, they were brand new parts. You could already do this a year ago with brand new parts. Let's just say it that way, because the receipts, they exist. The new launch of the GPUs has made a lot of people kind of like come in and look and say, what's going on here? It happens every launch of new GPUs and new CPUs. Prices do weird things. They're going to eventually come back down. Everybody wants to take advantage of what's going on. If you're smart, you won't fall for the crap. You just sit back and relax and let people just go ahead and do their thing. However, what's going on right now is just that contraction that happens in the market. And if you can tell, or if you can't tell, a lot of this is orchestrated. It feels very eerie and similar to 2020, which, sure, I can't say that one was orchestrated because there were scalpers, there was mining, but we don't have those constraints anymore yet. We're running out of GPUs. Somebody is there no skeptic person out there? All right, I'll just keep my tinfoil hat. Anyways, let's keep listening.
Managed to get lucky with good deals, but it's only really valid if you ignore that used consoles.
Good deals? That GPU was sitting on the market for over a year for under $350. Now they want $600, $800, $900 for the same GPU. Did I show you guys the other day on PC Part Picker where they're asking that amount for this same GPU? And now people want to come back and wipe tears out of their eye when For the most part, this information was not even put out there. And those of us who put the information out there, we were getting called names. Elitist. You're just the this. We don't like PC. And now everybody, because there are no exclusives anywhere, because Xbox is putting them in PlayStation, or PlayStation is not making them. Everybody wants to go to PC now. So I guess people are now more interested in PC gaming. Goodness.
Or official/retailer refurbished with a warranty exists too. On the budget side, you can readily get chips that outperform the aging Zen 2 parts in consoles. Unfortunately, in the budget GPU tier, we still have upcoming cards, namely 5060 and 9060, expected to release with 8 gig VRAM models, significantly lower than PS5 Series X have access to, requiring settings compromises and having questionable longevity. Will the VRAM skimping ever end? So we've got two questions there, really. They are obviously interconnected, of course. This concept of being able to buy an equivalent or better PC for the same price as a console, and the VRAM skimping.
I'll be honest. The concept of being able to buy or build a PC for the equivalent of a console, that's a no-brainer. It's a misnomer because I have the receipts to the effect. The question was, when Digital Foundry shot from the hip and said that the PS5 was going to mimic at least a downclocked 4070, a lot of people that would have stepped into PC gaming either held off for the PS5. The darn thing came out, they bought it, and they basically got what I think was a very minimal improvement and missed out on funds that they could have taken to build a PC of that nature, one which is in the future configurable, by the way. And that's the thing about a PC. Once you bought that PS5 Pro, those of you who've expressed regret to me, some of you have, and I'm not saying you did anything bad, I'm just pointing out that you don't make that same mistake again. When they say PS6, yell PC. When they say PS6, yell PC. The reason you want to do that is simply because once you build a PC, that PC is not a static device. It's a dynamic piece of machinery that you can modify as you choose. So whatever changes happen in the industry, your PC can be molded to actually suit those changes. And whatever preferences you want, your PC can be molded to suit that as well. So I know he's going to say some things, but I just wanted to put that out there.
The VRAM skimping thing, I kind of think it may persist into this generation and possibly then move on from there. I mean, just from a competition side of things, Intel are coming in with 10 and 12 gig models at the budget side.
But Intel is not, for some reason, Intel did not really believe in their, I don't know if they didn't believe in their product because they came with limited stock to the market. They were supposed to tweak it. They were supposed to change it up. And AMD was already sitting there too. The 6750 XT and the 6700 XT were sitting at the 12 gig, segment. And then the 3060 was also sitting in the 12 gig segment, and they were all hovering around the $300, $320 price points, different models, stock everywhere, right? And that's what you saw, and people were being savvy. Many of you remember the Steam hardware survey. You guys saw that majority of PC gamers were sitting on the 3060. Why do you think so? Because they were trying to mitigate that VRAM requirement, even though they didn't get the 40 series, didn't really matter. And I'll show you something very interesting as to how we've been so distracted in gaming today that we're basically chasing trends with developers rather than sitting to think, why? I'll let Alex ask that question and I'll show you something very telling.
Surely at some point we've got to move on from 8 gigs, Alex.
Yeah, 8 gigs is just such a big anchor around any sort of movement. Like, you've got this GPU which has like shading power, it's got machine learning, it has the ability to do frame gen, it can potentially do all these great things, but it's limited to please only play at 1080p for the love of God.
Okay, I have to say something here. Now, I'm not a fan of NVIDIA. In fact, I don't like that company. You can maybe call me more of a sympathetic, customer of AMD in a sense, of which I'm happy about their rise to basically topple Intel. Intel used to be terrible, and they used to basically run the CPU market. But AMD somehow, Mama Sue woke up and bam, knocked the whole thing out. Love the company, love the way that she basically took that approach and such. However, I have to tell you, our developers that are making games for us, I think they've basically chased so many trends and taken on brand new technology with low fidelity and abandoned old technology which had high fidelity. And now we're making games that somehow the gamer is now burdened with compensating for the lack of them being able to optimize their games. Many people talk about Batman Arkham Knight, but not a lot of people actually talk about the kind of machine you require to run Arkham Knight at very good performance. This is the menu and the graphic settings for Arkham Knight on PC. I decided that I would show this to you because it's very necessary for you to see it yourself. In order for you to run this game at 1440p and run it at 60 FPS, look at this. It tells you on the bottom right corner how much VRAM usage is acceptable, how much VRAM you should have on your graphics card. Do you know that to run this game at 1440 60, do you know that to run it at 4, let me go ahead and click yes. You only need 4 gigs of VRAM to run Batman Arkham Knight. Did you hear what I just said? To run this game at 1440p, you need 4 gigs of VRAM. That is the scandal of scandals. At 1080p, to run this game, you need 3.968, which is basically 4 gigs of VRAM. Not saying that NVIDIA and AMD should not add more VRAM. Not saying that because technology has advanced. Yes, hardware and the value proposition and the, what you should get for your hardware pieces for today's prices should be better. We should just basically say no more 8 gigs of VRAM. I'm not saying that they should make 8 gigs of VRAM. Don't get me wrong. However, I'm saying what's going on in game development these days where you need all that VRAM juice to play a game. And all my settings, texture settings, shadow quality, LOD, motion blur, anti-aliasing, chromatic aberration, film grain, and the trilinear filtering are all enabled. Now, this game had some NVIDIA, GameWorks settings, but this particular GPU that I'm using here is an AMD GPU. So all of those, it's an RX 6800 XT. So all those things are already, by default disabled. You can't really do anything with them. But if I go to 1440, the thing is asking me for 4.140 gigs of VRAM. So something has gone awry in the whole paradigm of game development, that the gamers themselves are now the people that have to actually come out here and carry that burden for devs with the hardware. And the hardware manufacturers are also shafting us from all sides, making these limiting or limitable graphics cards, while the developers are pushing graphics further than our graphics card so that we can go back and upgrade again. I think there is a coordinated way to put everybody on this particular hardware run. These gaming companies working with these developers, with these hardware manufacturers, to me, it no longer is a good look. I used to think, oh, look at that. They're exhibiting their game using all these graphics cards, but I don't think it's a good look. I don't think it's for the benefit of the consumer. Until date, I haven't seen the game, bro, that comes close to the visuals of Batman Arkham Knight. I can go back and I can basically 1980 by 1080 this bad boy, and we could jump into the world, right? I could do some 1080. Let's do some 1080. Let's go ahead and actually play a video game in that particular fidelity so that y'all can see for yourselves. So you guys don't say, VG, you're going crazy. I mean, I am because of this madness or whatever it is. There's some AR challenges. Let's fight. I'm using mouse and keyboard, so permit me. Actually, no, let me get I got my PlayStation controller right here. Let's game. Let's look and see what in the world is freaking going on. The game is locked to 60 FPS. Hold on, guys. Let me fire up MSI Afterburner. Right? Let's go. Let's do it. What in the world is going on? Right? Like, I'm looking at Digital Foundry and going like, man, you guys did that whole talk about, Arkham Knight versus Gotham Knights. And, you had your guy do all that and talk about all that. And, you guys aren't asking these questions as well, too. There we go. A PlayStation controller works. Goodness. 60 FPS lock. Top right, 1080. How much VRAM are we using? 3.9 gigs of VRAM. Let's go into freaking the Terror House. Let's use Catwoman. And let's just jam. Hold on. Let me turn that volume down so that you guys can hear me yap. Yeah. This, look at it. And I'm recording as well, too. So, by all means, let's take a few, gigs of VRAM. to say, okay, you're my recording. Are you going to drop? No. Now, the CPU is a more modern CPU, but it's a $126 CPU on AliExpress. More expensive. Sorry, the CPU that I actually built my first gaming PC on was like $150. It was more expensive than the CPU. So technology is getting better, but it seems like the games are getting worse. Look, locked on 60. And then do a down takedown. Oh, some of you didn't know I cooked on Arkham, huh? You thought because I play Gotham Knights all the time. I like Arkham. It's one of my favorite games. You just didn't know. I didn't want to tell you much. But look at what we're dealing with, ladies and gentlemen. Hold on, let me cook these guys. No. Look at that guy. No, you come here. Come here. And do a ground takedown here. Stun. Counter. Take him down. And then, anatomy lesson. So, ladies and gentlemen, what they're saying here in this video. Hold on, let me just turn the game off. Someone came and hit me. These buggers. What these gentlemen are saying here, there's a point to it, but I don't think we've delved in deep as to some of the challenges that we're seeing in regard to the gaming industry, these tech companies that are making this hardware and are somewhat pretending like, oh, you know, we can't make you more VRAM. And the developers making games that are basically just running crazy, asking and begging for all these resources. What happened to all their technology? Like, did they throw them all away? You know what I mean? Like, did they just toss them all away? That's what I think that's a very valid question to ask.
That's like all it says. And then it's like, every single time a game comes out that is problematic, and there's more and more of them each time, because I'm sorry, a lot of devs really are not putting a good focus on this when they should at times, but also 8 gigs, like, that is a limiting factor when you have more on console to work with for tech.
Guys, I just played an entire game. That's one of the better looking games that beats a huge chunk of the games that have launched this generation using less than 4 gigs of RAM and still capturing footage with a $100 today, up-to-date AMD, well, $126 AMD CPU. The very first time I played this particular game at 60 FPS, 1080p, I used an RX 480. I was coming from the PS4, and I played Arkham on PC, and I said, oh my gosh, I'm a PC gamer. I like the way the game rolls. You guys just saw that game lock at 60 FPS and did all that. Did y'all know that there's a 90 FPS mode on this game from 2015, if you had the hardware that could actually punch those frames? And we're over here saying that 8 gigs of RAM is the end of our lives. The gaming industry done lost its mind. The hardware makers also done lost their minds as well. We are just the people that are very much just taking the blowback. Because the console manufacturers, they're the ones that shocked me the most. They came out and they started telling the console gamers, oh, we're going to give you all this stuff that, you know. And I'm thinking, who stands to benefit from all this?
Extra memory specifically. And, you know, there's only so much you can expect of developers in scaling, and you should expect more eventually at some point from your GPU. Apparently NVIDIA did at some point too with the 3060 12 gig. Like, they apparently also thought it was worth it at some
yes, because it's like they glitched when they made the 3060 12 gigs, guys, and they sold it for about 300 and something. Then they dropped it to 299. At one point, there were some models that were 279. The MSI, I think it was the Ventus OC or the Gigabyte version, and was 279. There was a glitch in the matrix. All this was happening last year, and everybody was fighting. Oh, you cannot build a PC without $2,000. And I was like, the amount of BS that gets spread on this gaming conversation each day, bro. Oh, man.
Point, and then they're you know. So yeah, I'm not happy about it. I would not at all buy an 8 gigabyte GPU. I would flat out disrecommend every single person playing AAA games to buy a new 8 gigabyte GPU. Like, if it comes out, I'm just gonna flat out know it.
Which is a sad reality, right? Because I broke the whole video flow to show you 4 gigs of VRAM in action. Right? You know, I just stopped the entire thing to show you 4 gigs of VRAM in action. If you had a 6 gig VRAM card back in 2016, 2017, you were a baller. Anybody remember the 1066 gigs? What happened to gaming, bro? It's not like the games have actually transformed and transcended into this, crazy thing compared to the older titles that we were having coming into the 2015, 2016 PS4, Xbox One generation. Games haven't necessarily moved way past those graphics and those fidelity, pieces. That's in a significant way.
So yeah, I don't think with the first part of the question here is going to be a realistic possibility in the current future for new products coming out. The used one was already mentioned, but for new products, the console buyers now, they have access to, since they're buying in bulk and buying direct, they have a completely different pricing scheme, and they're manufacturing so many more units. And they're part of the design process. It's not at all going to be any point in the near future where you get a $499 complete PC that is going to be rivaling the GPU experience you get there on the console side. I don't think, and I think that is really unfortunate. It's definitely a newer thing that happened this time around.
Again, I think somewhere, somehow, something got misconstrued at the end of the day. You could build a 490 in the PS4 days. You could build a 499 PC towards the middle-ish of the generation. The Bullseye 3.0 that could rival the PlayStation 4. In many cases, it beat the PlayStation 4. If you followed Austin Evans' Bullseye 3.0 video and all, you could do that. But really, you know what? Let's just keep listening.
But Rich has talked about it a bunch of times before. The manufacturing situation is completely different now.
Just my thoughts on this quickly. The thing about the consoles, of course, is that there's the total cost of ownership, which essentially requires a significant subscription. Obviously the situation changed somewhat with the PS5 Pro being a $700 console.
That was crazy. When I did these videos, I was looking at just a base PS5, $499, extra controller, PlayStation Plus, the cost of games. Say you buy 4 brand new games every year, and I came up with, somewhere around $700-800 what you're gonna pay a year, spend a year. But if you moved your gaming to PC, online gaming is free. You don't need a PlayStation Plus subscription. But then they came out with a $700 console. When you put $700 here in the PS5 Pro category, it just makes everything really different. So I didn't even bother anymore. I was like, you know what? What's the point? I think somebody started asking me about doing a $1,000 PC at one point, and I was kind of running some numbers for them.
Even more expensive in Europe, of course. There's a lot of sort of variables.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's why I stopped the video. I guess I realized that there's a sad reality in our gaming space right now that, it's very interesting. Very interesting. I'll stop it here. The video's already gone through 23 minutes. And if there's something at the end of the video that I'm probably not taking into account, I guess my eyes, are just telling me different, that I can play a game at this fidelity, at this quality, with limiting the RAM to about, 4-ish gigs of VRAM. 6 gigs of VRAM used to be the stuff of legend back in, 2015, 10 years ago, when the games looked very good. If we got games that looked like this today, bro, we'd be pining. Jump. You see? I can't do anything. Oh, I had a controller just now. Why did I even drop my controller? All right. Cook, cat. That doctor, he wants to res them. Drop it on the ground. Anyways, I'm out. I'm just going to keep jamming and playing here, and then I'm going to pause, and I'm going to stop the recording. I'm going to enjoy the games, bro. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Peace out.